Hi, everybody. It turns out most of the people participating today are online, so I'm really glad to have some friendly faces to actually look at, because I'm old, and if it's just online, I know some people super comfortable, and I just like looking at people. So thanks for coming. Before we get started on this program, this is a program called Unlocking Data Careers, and it is a support that's been made possible with the support of the government of Alberta. So yay, the government of Alberta. They recognize and we recognize that careers are really important, people are really important, and data is really important. And if we can get all of those things together, there's some amazing things we can do. So the government of Alberta has invested in this program, and I think it's going to be really good. I also want to recognize Mark Nolte, who is lurking. There he is. He's the one with all the food. Mark Nolte is terrific. Mark has provided the AV that we're using to broadcast this information live to everybody. So hi, everybody who's online. I hope you're going to enjoy yourselves. If you have questions online, please type them into the chat in Teams. If you don't know how to use a chat in Teams, there's a facility you can raise your hand like that. Just click the raise hand button, and somebody who will not be me will get on and will help you, because I'm going to be up here. I can't answer. But our objective is to make sure everybody can answer. If you have questions, please ask them. You need to speak loudly. Have you noticed that I'm told this is the HVAC that's making all this racket. Can anybody hear over this racket? Can you hear me in the back? Okay, good. I may not be able to hear you all that well, but somebody will translate. Okay, so I'm going to introduce everybody. I'm Trudy Curtis. I have been the CEO of something called the PPDM Association for 23 years, and I've been working as a data professional for nearly 50 years of my life. So I've been doing this for a really, really long time. I've had a lot of experience in different industries, working for different people. I now work for this amazing not-for-profit professional society whose objective it is to recognize that data is a really important asset for any nation, for any people, for any organization. The people who know how to take care of that data are also very important assets. And if we can get those things together, we can do really well. So let me ask you a question. How many of you believe that you have data skills right now? I saw some hands not get up. Okay, so, okay. How many of you read the notice that said that there was going to be a meeting today? How many of you made a note of where that meeting was going to be so you knew where to go? That's data management. The thing is, every time you interact with another person or you interact with a process, data is created and data is used. The question isn't whether or not we use data in our day-to-day existence, because we all do. The question is, what do you do with it? And do you do that in an effective way? So how many of you ever written a document or created something? Hands up. If you created something, yeah? And how many of you later have gone, oh, now where did I put that silly thing, and had trouble finding it later? That ever happen to anybody? Happens to me all the time, right? You're like, oh man, I knew I created it. I wrote it on a piece of paper. I put it in a document that's in a folder somewhere on my laptop or something like that. Those are data skills, but data skills that need improvement. So our objective at PPDM is to help you to recognize when you're generating data that's an asset, how you can take care of that going forward. And I'm gonna introduce some other people, but I got some real skin in the game. This is really, really important to us. I'm going to start by introducing my pal, Paul Thompson. Okay, Paul has been in this industry for a long time. He is a general manager at the Petrosys group for Thales, and he's been working across subsurface data, technology, and business in the energy sector for over 20 years. It seems like hardly any time at all, right? But it is. And really working on it, not just talking about it, but actually figuring out what is going on with that data, what should we do? He's done commercial work, and he's now in a leadership role, helping global energy companies build data platforms that actually function. So Paul's the guy who knows what the jobs look like from the inside. We also have Nabil Samala. Nabil, come join us. Okay. Nabil is a really interesting guy. He's spent a long time in a lot of industry. He's been a well service engineer. He's worked in the field. He spent 3 decades following career paths that take him through data management, product development, leading data transformation across North America for IHS Markit. IHS Markit, that's now been bought by SP Global, is one of the largest data companies in the world. They're cross industry. Okay. So he has led some data transformation there. And his path matters because it doesn't really matter where you start from. You can end up in a career with data. So we're going to talk about what it means to have career in data. And I have a script here, which I will most likely not follow. And your job here, whether you're here in person or whether you're online, we've got somebody watching the chat online right now, is put in your questions and we'll try to get them. But let's start by getting after Paul here. Okay, so Paul, 20 years, you've been in this business. What do you tell people about what that means to your role in data? And there, yeah, there's a mic. Pick that up. Yep.
What does it mean? Sorry, what was
What does it mean to you? Your career in data, and how has that evolved, and why is that important to these guys who are just wondering what it's like?
I mean, I would have to go back to when I first started, when I first got out of university, more than 25 years ago. And just being the new kid and not knowing what the heck was going on, you know, just being inquisitive, asking questions, helping solve problems, pushed me into data management. I would like to say it actually pushed me into project management. And so from project management, just, you know, there's a big component of data management there, making sure proper workflows and procedures are in place. And so that kind of moved me further into data management. So to me, the data management, as much as, you know, I kind of started at the grassroots, it's actually been a path to leadership for me, just recognizing, you know, something has to be done here. I'm going to put my hand up and get it done because there's lots of issues. So I think that's my path, just the one to put their hand up, say, I'll take care of this problem and go from there. So I'm not sure if I answered your question because I might have forgotten about it.
What you said is what so many people to me have said to me before, that you try to do something with data and you can't do it because the data's crap. It's garbage. It's no good. And you look at the data and you say, I could fix this. I could make this better. I could make this more meaningful. I could make it more useful. And by doing that, you evolve into career paths that are more and more data centric as you develop and demonstrate that aptitude and capability.
I started with IHS, as she said, and one of the manager, by chance, he said he wants me into his group, where it was a data group. I did not use the data before that, and I started right away see the differences where I can actually convert my experience and my technical knowledge into this data, and we start building it. And honestly, every time I make a change, or as probably she mentioned about the data, or you fix the quality of the data and stuff like that, it makes you feel really good. And I start, without knowing it, I spent the last 25 years building data and working with data, and that's where I get like probably 25 years when I start using the PPDM, and where I know Trudy. We never actually met personally, but I was using her PPDM through all those 25 years. And yeah, again, because of my technical background and the tools I was able actually to learn through this all 25 years, I was able to enhance and to build some of the data that it is a standard in the industry here in Calgary or in Alberta. And later on into the US, some of the stuff I did for Europe, for Argentina. And yeah, again, every time we finish something, the feeling is absolutely, it's great. I mean, I don't know if I can add
Yeah.
any more?
Well, let me ask you a question. So, I'm going to ask you the same question in a second, Paul. So brace yourself. So, as a part of your job, you've hired people.
Yes.
And you've hired people who've had data roles. So when you're hiring somebody, and data is going to be an important component of what you're looking for, what kind of person, what skills, competencies, personalities are you looking for?
Good question. Actually, the data, everybody can probably big data and enter it where it is data entry. But as a data person, you need to be able to analyze those data, how to use those data. So you need actually to be to have some kind of analysis knowledge, let me put it this way, or how to use these tools to use it. You need to be considered as a critical thinker. The data itself is what you need to do with this data. You can see lots of charts, you can see lots of plots. You collect data from the past, from the present, and you need to know what to do with it. So you can predict the future, for example. You can actually make decision depends on the data you collect and where you're going with it. So lots of times that's what we do. I'm not going into technical, but I'm petroleum engineer, for example. We can use all the data we collect to make decision probably after 10 years. Where's this well going, or what's this field going, and all that stuff. So your decision depends on those data and how accurate the data, how current is your data, how complete is your data. So that's how it helps you to make the decision.
Great. Paul, same question.
Same question. So I'd say what I look for now is a bit different, maybe quite a bit different than, let's say, 10 years ago. I've always been on the service side instead of as compared to the operator side. And so we're always looking to help our clients, the operators, with what are proper business processes, workflows, and all of that. And so when we're hiring someone, I would say the biggest thing I'm looking for is just someone who's really good at communicating to both technical people, highly technical people, and business people, and just be able to bridge that gap. So I think that's one of the strongest skills I look for, is just that communication between subject matter experts, technical IT people, and then business people. So I'd say that allows, like when I hire someone with those skills, I can then teach them, okay, well, these are the exact things that we're looking for in this workflow, or this is how we can make things better for this company. So as long as you have that, that was then, that's still a big part now. But AI is also a big part. The last person we hired, very competent on AI, and has actually shed a lot of light on some of the additional things we can do. Still need all of that, and we're still going to build him up on that knowledge of workflows and process management, but there is another tool in our toolkit, so you absolutely need to be up to speed with that and what you can do with it.
Okay, good. I'll put that down just for a sec. So I'm the CEO of PPDM, so we don't hire a lot of people, but I travel around the world and I talk to a lot of companies who do hire people, who are looking for people to fill roles that are related to data. And those may be in developing nations, they may be in very advanced countries such as Canada, Australia, somewhere in the UK, etc. What people are looking for is an ability to look at data and think about it creatively and critically. And that's something that is often lacking in people. Just because a number has been put into a spreadsheet or a chart exists or whatever it is does not mean that the data is right, does not mean it's trustworthy, doesn't mean that it's accurate. So that ability to examine data with a jaundiced eye, a critical eye, and say, I don't think that data's right. I think there's something wrong with that data. And that creativity to figure out how do you find out what's gone wrong? Well, how important is it, right? So if I have one piece of data and another piece of data, and I think they're both wrong, which is most important for me to think first? That's the ability to prioritize and skill yourself. These data skills are really important. There are a lot of methods and things that we can teach you, and we will teach you when we get on later into the classes that we're going to do a little bit later on this year. But at the foundation, it's that the creativity, the capability to look at something analytically, and then to communicate what you're finding with others so that you can work collaboratively to figure out what's going on and to fix whatever problems there are. So when I look for data people, I'm looking for people with that skills. There are related skills. Programming is a related skill because data doesn't lend itself to usefulness until it's sitting in a container, right? So it's got to be in some kind of software, in some kind of database. The data isn't about the container. It's not about the database. In fact, those containers tend to break data. It's really important for us to understand what it's doing to the data in addition to what it's doing for us. So those are the kinds of things that mindset and the willingness to get out there and get something done takes sometimes a little bit of backbone to talk to a manager and say, there's something wrong with this data, guys. We need to figure it out, right? So this we're looking for. Okay, so let me get here. We're going to talk about job futures. So how many of you are actually looking for a job now, looking for a job change, want to do something that's more fun, maybe a little bit more creative? Are there any hands going up in the room there, Jasmine? You can there are hands, okay. So this is really important. So let's talk about what the future holds. And I want you who are listening, think about what is it that worries you about finding a job right now. Let's talk about that in a minute. But first of all, you think about what worries you as if that wasn't at the front of your mind every minute of every day, right? Let's talk about what Paul and Nabil think the job future is looking for us here in Alberta.
Actually, I will add one thing before about what she said. And that's when I start with the data. I don't have all the tools. I don't have all the knowledge. But I was actually struggling to learn. I went to SAIT. I went to University of Calgary. I try online, everything. I think what we have now, it's already packaged, and there is it's a free, I think, right? Yeah. So I think this is really a good chance for everyone to take advantage of this. It is available. It is already into 5 days, I think. And that will save you lots of time. And from what I see in the industry, I mean, even I came from a technical background, but what I see in the data and every day, it's improving and more open doors actually related to the data, no matter what data. I mean, I can talk about petroleum data for a week, but really the data itself, it's for everything. It's probably every part of our life now. It is actually managed by data, and as she said, every two people talking to each other, actually they are exchanging data. So I think this is a great opportunity for people who's looking to advance and to see another door or a different career. And in my mind, I will advise actually everyone to try it at least, and you will see the difference.
Okay, Paul, where are we going?
Where are we going?
Where are we going?
A few ways to answer that. I can explain where I think some major, not to mention names, but cloud providers want us to go, and they want us to store more and more data in their cloud. And that's because they make money on every piece of data that you store. I can't name names again, but I've been in high-level meetings with some of these people, and their objective wasn't on what problem are we solving. It was more of, well, we want them to put all their data here, so let's figure out what the problem is. So they were starting with the solution instead of starting with the problem, because they have one solution in mind. Those same companies want will say to you that there are easy buttons for getting your data into our environment. Push this button, it will take care of it for you. You don't need people like us in the way to help facilitate that. We'll just bring it all in. But that's back to the first thing I mentioned, which is they want more data in their system because they will make more money that way. And so it's our job to basically, and it's difficult because you have to raise your hand and get in front of the executives and that high level leadership at the different companies, because those are the ones who are making these deals. You need to raise your hand and get in front of them and say, well, what about this and what about that, and what, this isn't the correct data, or this is the correct data. So where we're going is you have really big forces that are at a really high level pushing to put everything there. And then you have people like us that know that's a disaster waiting to happen. So can we get involved? So where are we going is just trying to get more involved, because the more data you have, the bigger the problem is going to be, not the easier it's going to be. And so I actually think there being a much greater challenge coming with the amount and the quantity of data that we're now capturing. It's a big challenge, so we just need people in this industry that are brave enough to put their hand up and say, yeah, but what about this, or what about that? Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think that was worth at least 10 cents. Okay. Okay. So where are jobs going in the future? I spent time looking at what job careers look like as they're posted on places like Indeed, on LinkedIn jobs, on government websites. I'm looking at what is happening in organizations that are really focused on data. So open data initiatives, data capability initiatives, etc. And here's what I'm finding is that as technology evolves, as it grows, and as our capability to use data, it is becoming more and more important to have people on the ground who understand data and how data behaves, okay? So think about a word. Think about an invoice date. And if I was to ask each of you what your definition of what an invoice date was, what you think that word means, you would, in all probability, all come up with a slightly different answer. The challenge with data is not to find one right path and everybody follows exactly the same path, right? This sort of extreme discipline in data governance we've tried, it doesn't work. The challenge in data governance is to listen to people, to understand and respect the differences that they have and how they define things, and understand how the data can be used to accommodate their needs. Usually when we try to conform everybody to a single definition, usually what we're trying to do is wrong, and we're failing to recognize the diversity and importance of the business. So as we go forward in careers, the ability to listen, the ability to analyze, the ability to understand, to recognize and respect differences in how people think in a way that allows us to reconcile all these things into one system becomes more and more important, right? So let me give you a quick example. And Blaine, you start waving at me when I'm going over time, right? Because we get wound up here. Okay, so has anybody gone on to a government site to look at the carbon emission reporting that's available right now? Has anybody done that? Oh, yeah, you have done that. Okay, did you find anything when you look at that data? Did anything look hinky about that data to you? Here, no, you have to speak to the fuzzy thing.
It's hard to find the data, and it was put together by somebody who didn't understand well the business. So you find a lot of information, but it's not easy to gather, to digest, and then to put in practice to use that data.
Beautifully put. I don't need both of these mics too. I'm being so okay. So never mind. Here, I'm gonna give it to you so I don't. Okay, so this is such a beautiful. You said it perfectly. The data is there, but it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't generate any trust in you. You don't know how you can use this. And this we see. We have become a world that is generating vast amounts of data that exists without the necessary context or content to allow us to evaluate it properly. And that's what happens when you get data systems that are created by people who don't know what they're doing. That's why data professionals are really important. Do you want to add anything to that? I see your things.
I have lots of examples like that. I mean, like the data, it has to be trusted. I think, Mark, from your card, one of it actually, it is about the data quality. Like to trust the data, you have actually to make sure that this data is correct. It's complete, it's you can actually use it to create new things. That's what's the data in my mind. Everybody can collect data. It has to be trusted. And I have so many examples where we can find actually some huge error in a data provided by government side. I mean, like one of it we can fix, some of it you cannot. But you have actually to make sure the data you are working with, at least you have to make sure that you can correct those information before you can use it. The quality is very important, and I think correct data is a huge matter into that before you can use it for anything else.
Beautiful. Well.
Question again?
Okay, so what we're seeing now in a world where technology allows us to bring a lot of different kinds of data together to do analysis, right? So we can now gather emissions report, and they can be created in the field. So there's meters in the field that are measuring carbon emissions, and they're collecting them at the level of some kind of a facility. The facility is aggregating them up to the corporate level. The corporate level is aggregating them up often here to the province, and the province is aggregating to the country, and all the countries are aggregating all that data up to the globe. And every time that data takes another step, it loses some content, it loses some context, and it loses its trustworthiness, which is exactly what you were alluding to. But we now live in a day where we are generating data faster than people can assimilate it, faster than they can understand it. And there is an assumption that technology is going to solve all of these problems. How many of you think in the room, do you think technology is going to solve all of the problems we have with this data? No. No. I hear a no. Do I hear a no? Do I hear, oh my goodness, no? No. Okay. I might have mentioned that I've been in this industry for quite a few decades. And every time a new technology emerges, and I mean literally every time a new technology comes up, industry says, this is amazing. This technology is going to solve all of our problems with data. All you have to know is how to run that technology. The first one, who knows what one of the first ones was? Excel. How many of you ever used a spreadsheet, right? Excel is magic. Is Excel magic or is it not magic? Come on, it is, right? Okay, but does Excel allow you to integrate data from a company that has many departments? No, got limitations, right? And the scientists who were working on the Human Genome Project found out that it has limitations when it started converting the names of genomes to dates. And you couldn't stop Excel from doing that. Super annoying. They were big articles about it. Anyway, so no, technology isn't, but technology is a really good facilitator and enabler, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And with more and more data, we absolutely need technology to get through it, but you need people who know what they're looking for and what they're doing and what the top level summary of that bulk set of data is, right? So we are using technology to help summarize this so that an end user like yourself can see that summary and be given some direction. And so it is important for us to kind of keep that in mind, that there's a lot of data, and some people think you can just amass it, but you do need people like us in there with technology helping others understand it. And it's different for every subject matter. Like you do need subject matter expertise, whether it's engineering data, oil and gas, or medical, or whatever industry. You need someone who understands that data. And often I actually find when I'm dealing with customers, the best customers are people that were geophysicists or geologists or engineers like yourself in a past career and now moved into data management because they were so sick and tired of seeing it as such a mess. So I do find, just even from a career perspective, it's fine if you go into an area that's not data related, but there you will be touching on data management no matter where you are. So keep that in mind. Get that subject matter expertise wherever you get in the door, and just kind of be that person to raise your hand and say, hey, can I help understand this data better? Because there's a big need for it, and it's only growing.
It's growing. Who has a question? What's keeping you up at night?
Mine was that I had to be on a panel today, so I didn't
Yeah.
sleep well last night.
That's funny. Okay. Can we maybe bring the mic up to him, Paul? Because otherwise the guys online will not be able to hear.
Yeah, my name is Vincent, and this is for Paul. If somebody sent you a resume, what are you really looking out for? Because these days you send things out and you don't even get any reply, right? So how do you guys go through that? And I guess technology is part of it now, but how do you go?
The mic back, go up there.
You're gonna have to just restate
For me,
that.
and I've done it a few times in the last few months where I do have other people that will do the hiring, but I will take a first pass at resumes. And number one thing I look for, and it is very frustrating when I don't see it, is we will put certain qualifications on it. These are the skill sets we're looking for. We want experience in it. And that's the first thing I look for. So if I want someone who has, so more on it. So I've hired technical IT people and business. So this example is of an IT person. I want someone with database experience and writing scripts, SQL scripts. So those are my two top, and I will look and throw at any resume that doesn't at least have those two. And then I will, honestly, I might get 100 resumes and only 5 of them have those qualifications. And so those are the 5 we're going to do a telephone interview with. So, for me, I'm looking for a couple top level, you need this experience, and we'll give those people a call. If you don't, we do have a system that will send a reply saying, thank you, but you weren't selected. And so I do try to get back to everybody so that we're not leaving you in the unknown.
So
Well,
resume.
I agree with Paul. Like every job posting has a qualification. Some of it is probably too much, some of it, but you have actually to have the main tools or experience, or it depends. If somebody is asking for, as he said, like as a data analyst, and yet you don't know what the database is, I'm sure your resume will be drawn. That's, in my mind, that's as easy as that. But when you put all your qualification at the beginning, I know PL, SQL, I know database, I know SQL, Microsoft, all that stuff, and it is related to the job, I'm sure at least you will get interview.
I think it's a really interesting question that you've asked. There is a huge disjoint between how people describe their capabilities and competencies on the resume and what an employer is asking for in terms of competencies and capabilities. So sometimes you read a job description, you think, is that actually me? Right? And so you think, well, I'm going to apply, and you hope that if you throw resumes with enough words on it, that something will stick. A resume has a job to do. The first job, as Paul said, is to demonstrate to the person who's looking for a potential candidate that you have the skills that they look for. And if you bury that in a whole bunch of other junk, that takes too long. When I read resumes, I have to read 200 resumes in an hour. I don't have time to read all of those words. What I'm looking for, as Paul said, I'm looking for what I asked for. And if I don't see what I asked for, it's buried in a lot of other stuff, it goes to the bottom of the pile. Okay, so the first thing is every time you submit a application for a job, that should be custom made for the job that you're looking for. Not one general resume that you shoot off to everybody and hope that they'll do the work of figuring out what it is that you can do. That's your job. So looking for a job is a full-time job. First thing is to communicate clearly whether or not you're the person that they're looking for. Second thing is doing some research. If you're going to take the time to apply to a job at a company, take a minute and have a look at what that company does. Look at their products, look how they're doing on the stock market, look at their management, look at how they're distributed, and have a think about how your skills could work in that environment. That is your job too. You're not just, I'll take any job, just give me a job, because that's a desperation. And that desperation conveys an attitude that says, please don't hire me because I'll probably abandon you as soon as I find something better. Right? Employers are also looking for stability in jobs. So think about what it is that they're looking for and how you can contribute. And also think about whether or not there's somebody you want to work for, because you're interviewing them as well. That's a two-way job. Right? If you're not happy working for a company, you're going to leave as well. How are we doing for time? Are we done? We got an online question. Oh my. Yes, please. Thank you. That'd be splendid.
As someone who's primarily business and operational background, who has designed systems, data tracking systems, built reporting tools, and worked closely with data flows through organizations, but without formal programming background, how would you recommend positioning yourself in today's data space so that your value is recognized? It feels like there is a growing demand for people who bridge business operations, leadership needs, and data strategy, but many of the visible career paths need to be heavily focused on technical development.
Very well thought out question. Who wants to tackle that one first?
I can actually, just to mention something, programming and database is two different separate things. I mean, you don't need too much programming to be a database administrator or, but it helped for sure. But usually in a company where I was a director and I have both teams working together. I mean, the database people and the programmers people who has the tools that we need to build our database or what we need. So the two teams work together, but I don't think as a database analyst or you need to know too much in programming. I think you still need to know some PL, SQL, how to read, how to write scripts and stuff like that. But an easy one, you don't need to be a programmer.
Yeah, just a quick addition to that. I think with looking for that job market and how to bridge that gap, but with your expertise and where does that fit in? Personally, I think it's way easier to do that from inside your existing company when you already have something. And so, and again, this is my career path. So I'll give you advice on what worked for me is essentially getting in the door, regardless of what that position was, and then just being that inquisitive person that raises their hands and asks questions to potentially then go and move into the career path at that company. So it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily looking, and my advice would be not necessarily to find that kind of end goal position right from the beginning, but research the company, find a company that you like, their ethics and their goals and things like that, and see what's available there. Try to get in the door. Once you're in the door, I think is a game changer. If you can set yourself apart from your peers once you're in the door, then your career can really take off at that company.
Brilliant. I like the way you said that. So a short version, the job of your resume is to capture the interest of whoever is screening the resumes at the start. And that person may not be the person doing the hiring. And because they're screening based on the capabilities and competencies that have been asked for, that's what you need to focus. The resume's job is to get you past the screening and an interview. in the interview is where you demonstrate to people the attitude and the aptitudes that make them more likely to hire you. Okay. It's not your resume doesn't do everything. You have to think about what's going to happen when you have the interview. And remember, the best interview is a two-way street. You're asking them why you want to work for them, and they're asking you why they want to have you work for them, right? So that two-way street is really critical, and that's an evolving conversation. And what Paul said and what Nabila said is when you start a job, they're trying you out and you're trying them out. Most data jobs evolve as a result of demonstrated capacity, competency, and capability. Okay, that's how jobs evolve. That's you get in there with an attitude that doesn't say, well, it's not my job, I'm not going to do it. Right? This looks like a problem, and I think I've got an idea how to solve it. I'm going to go check with my guys first and make sure that they're okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start doing stuff. Own your job, own the data, own what it is that you're doing and the value that you're bringing to the company. At the end of every day, say, what did today do for me? And what did today do for my employer? And that's how you build a relationship that's going to help you to develop a career, because you don't want your entry-level job for the rest of your life, right? How many of you want to do an entry-level job for the next 20 years? Yawn, right? So you need to be thinking about where is the job going to take you at the right time, okay, in a really healthy way. Does that make sense to everybody? Are there more questions? Yes. Hang on. I think we're going to be just for the people who are online, because they'll have trouble hearing you.
I think looking at the audience here, I don't know, online, I'm looking to pivot. I have my experience. I'm not technical. I'm not an engineer. I worked in an industry. I sold things. How do you look at my CV when I pivot? I don't probably have skills, SQL. I don't have that. I worked with a lot of tech. I'm very techy. I can't put it in my CV because I'm an expert on that. So how do you pivot to the data career?
That's a wonderful question. I'm going to avoid talking into both mics because that makes Brett Blaine scowl. Okay, so when we talk about competency and capability for data professionals, there are kind of three pillars in which those sit. The first pillar has to do with your business knowledge and acumen. What do you know about the business? What do you know about how they do business? And you've already got that, right? The second pillar is what do you know about how data behaves and how data management behaves? And there's a number of competencies. Did I kick it out? Sorry. So you should not hook me up with technology. That's a bad thing. Anyway, so the data capabilities, and there's a whole bunch of those data capabilities. You build those, but you build them on top of your business knowledge. The third pillar is your attitudes and aptitudes, your willingness to solve problems, your eagerness to figure out what's wrong, your critical thinking and analysis. Those three things work together to make you a great data professionals. There are lots of people who start in their data careers as an engineer, as a geologist, or as a geophysicist, or as an accountant, right? I mean, I've known people in every walk of life who've gone into data, but you have to build up then your data competencies. As it turns out, they don't come by magic. At the end of this program, we'll be teaching 5 classes about the fundamentals of things that you need to know about data. Come and attend those classes and have a think about them and get started. Building your data competencies is not magic. As it turns out, there are some things that you need to know and some ways of thinking that we need to show you how it'll work. But you absolutely can, and many, many people do, build their data competencies upon their business expertise, your training, etc., because you'll be able to draw on your real life experiences. It's a great starting point for you. Yeah.
Just to add something too. So I'm in software in oil and gas, but often when we look for candidates, I'm very rarely looking at what industry do you come from. So I will look at everybody equal across the board, regardless of if you're pivoting to a different industry, different subject matter. I'll also say it's, obviously the key things I'm looking for, you need to meet those. But some of the best people I have working with me have no background in data management, or engineering or computer science. One of the top ones, for instance, I think did education and linguistics or something like that. So it's more honestly, I'd say the number one thing is communicating. If you can communicate properly to people of different technical abilities or different businesses, that's the number one thing I'm looking for. So it's absolutely, there's the ability to pivot, but again, you're pivoting into not necessarily entry level at that point. Like you can pivot into kind of more intermediate positions with that other experience. And we do look at that. So.
100%. Nabil, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. I don't know if I give the wrong impression. I mean, we are talking here about the data right now. So, of course, there is lots of jobs still available in the market about the technical people, engineers is still working. But in here, when we talk about the Oracle or the SQL, it's simply because we are talking about jobs in the database. That's all.
So there are in data professional space, there is a very broad range of jobs that you can have. Okay, there's not all one kind of job. There's a whole family of these jobs that you can go into as you develop more capability. And those are going to be really helpful. I'm talking into the second thing again, just slap me. So, but I think getting started and understanding of what kinds of opportunities are available to you in the data space, whether that's a full-time job or whether it's just a part of your job. We saw a job for a fire chief. And the job for the fire chief in one of the cities here in Alberta was looking for somebody to analyze all of the data related to all of the fires that had happened in the region, do some analysis, and create some predictions for management. Those are all data competencies. I mean, the other business skill is you had to know how to hold the fire hose, how to turn it on, and avoid unplugging the wrong things, Lord Lane. Okay, so all of these things all fit in together, and it might just be a part of your job, and that's very much the case in a smaller organization, right? So data might only be a bit of your job. If you work for a big company, it might be your whole job. It just depends. And can you, maybe you could, whatever I did, you could undo it. Sorry.
There's only 10 minutes left, so it'll be okay.
Okay.
So we have a question from online, and it says, how do we build on data competencies and skills required with no technical knowledge just to be job ready for data careers? So it's related to training. How do we build data competencies and skills required with no technical knowledge?
There's no that technical knowledge thing spans a very, very large amount of things. Do you want to take that to start with?
Not really. I mean, like technical, it will help if you choose your career or a company. If you have oil experience and that's like technical and you go into oil company, that will be helpful. But the data itself, how to build data, I hire people before. They are like a database, they know Oracle and stuff like that with no technical, I mean, fresh from the school. And yeah, in no time, they were able to manage and they fit in. And some of them was very, very successful, in fact, actually.
I'm going to take that real broad, but not having technical skills, if you don't know how to use a computer, then you better learn how to use it, because data is almost all managed on computers now. So if you don't know how to use a computer, that's the first thing you need to pick up. If you know how to use a computer, but you don't really know what to do with data, go start with Excel. Take the classes that we're going to teach at the end of this. They're going to really give you some nice foundations, but start by learning that most popular data tool on the planet, which is Excel. And learn how to use Excel and learn what Excel can do, and most importantly, what it cannot do. Okay, because there's lots of things that Excel can do, and that analytical thinking was, what can this tool do for me, and where is its hard stop and things that it's not going to be able to help me with. That's a great start if you're starting to pick up some technical skills. Paul.
Yeah, the first thing that popped in my mind when that question was asked was, how organized are you? That's it in your personal life. The funny thing about Excel is I have at least a dozen Excel spreadsheets to manage and organize my personal stuff. It's like, it's just something I do. I like being organized. I like knowing where stuff is. I like knowing if I do this, this, and this is the result. So that's not a technical skill. That's are you organized? Do you like knowing where things are? Like your example, where that note was that you wrote down.
Yeah.
Librarian comes to mind. Like librarians are like, data managers that have been around for eons, organizing how to find and classifying how to find stuff quickly. That's what it is. It's not a technical thing. It's having that mindset of, I like being organized. I like being able to find where things are. And then knowing how to use Excel, like one of the great tools out there to help you do that. And then recognizing when it's not enough, because in the corporate world, it's almost never enough. And so what are the other solutions that you can pivot to?
Any other questions? Oh, we got one from the audience here. Thank you, Nabil.
Thank you for everything. One question a bit tricky from my own experiences. Well, I work 20 years in oil and gas, mostly as operator. I manage teams. I was manager of managers. But then when I'm looking to transition to more the IT business, to the digital business that today is running, I don't see a pattern to move in a mid-career like mine. It's like more of the positions are early positions. So I don't see a path how I can move, bring all my experience as operator, as user of software, to become part of an organization that develops solutions. I think I could be a very strong candidate, but in general, the openings are not many. Let's say 5 years ago, probably coding was a higher handicap, because to make a nice line of coding, you have to read a couple books. Now you go back to ChatGPT and you can make your own scripts for almost everything. I have developed myself in the digital part. I built my own data analytics, some Python, but it's like how to show that when you're looking for a job. And obviously you don't want a manager position because you are changing careers, but I don't see a path to move from a mid-career to a more entry career. I don't know, it's a wide open question, but.
I think this is great. We'll go back to the resume stuff. I mean, like, you have lots of experience, and you mentioned some of it, like right now. You said Python, you said about the separator, the dimension of the separator. The more actually you put in this, and I don't know if I am allowed to say that, most of, probably will correct me later on, but lots of people actually, they are using AI to choose the resume. So they go into 200, they are looking for a keyword. So you have lots of experience, put it all in your resume in a right way. And I think you will see, it depends on where you apply, but you have lots of experience. I think this is great to be used into the right direction.
Well, just to repeat something Trudy said earlier, just making sure. I mean, there are going to be yes, there's a lot of entry level jobs. Honestly, I often hire non-entry level. I usually look for, at least 5 years experience in this or that. So there are a lot of mid-career jobs out there. I think what Trudy said there, catering your resume and that cover letter so that the first paragraph I read is like, okay, he has the exact qualifications I'm looking for. I'm going to read further. I think just targeting each resume to those specific jobs is really the key to get that phone interview.
You mentioned that you'd done some analysis already. You've been writing some scripting, you've been doing some data analysis. Those things, it's one thing to do that for yourself. It's another thing to do that in a way that solves a problem that you have at work that could be recognized by management. So if you have an opportunity to bring those emerging skills that you have and leverage them in the workplace for the benefit of whoever your supervisory management team are, and get that recognition, that's really good. A second thing is taking some classes, getting some credentials or some micro credentials that you can add to your resume, can often stand in the place of actual work experience, right? Because you don't necessarily have the work experience in data, neither do you, right? But the classes, micro credentials, etc., anything that you can do to go to your management team and say, look, I've been looking at your data. I'm really interested in a data career. And I'm seeing these trends. I'm seeing this opportunity for improvement. Those are things that you can do as well. But it's a very proactive thing to do. Okay. We done? All right. If you have more questions, I'm going to hang around for a while. I'd be glad to talk. I know some people are super reluctant to put your hand up in an environment. I'm going to hang around. Paul and Nabil may be able to. Mark Nolte, who's been a data professional for, well, since the Brontosaurus went extinct, I'm pretty sure. Okay. And Heidi Lynn knows a lot about data management, so some of us can hang around for a while. Be glad to talk with you. Our job in this program is to help you to figure out how you can build data competencies to help you to find your career going forward, whether that's a full-time data professional or not. Okay, that's what we want to do. So attend the other sessions, come to the training classes. It's all free of charge, courtesy of the wonderful support that we've got from the government of Alberta. And that allows us to try to help you guys. So let us help you. Unfortunately, I can't promise you a job. I'd love to promise you a job, but I can't do that. Okay, thank you all for coming.